explosive book, Stoned, Shamed and Depressed, which is an incredible account, a vivid account, a no-holds-barred account of the lives of India's urban teens and the challenges that they're facing. Now, I'm not a parent, but I have to say I was pretty shocked by some of the stuff and scared actually by some of the stuff that I read in Jyotsna's book, which has been well-researched and well put together after months and months of talking to different kids, their parents, teachers, all stakeholders in the lives of these teenagers. And in the course of this book, which covers 6 in-depth chapters, Jyotsna has looked at everything from issues of substance abuse to eating disorders, how kids are dealing with sex in schools, they're dealing with gaming addiction, and coping with their lives basically on display on the internet. Jyotsna Mohan Bhargav joining us now for this formal book launch. Jyotsna, congratulations, because the book is already a bestseller and has been talked about for weeks now. Before I get into the question and answers, and I have a lot of questions for you, just read us what you think is a passage that sums up what the book is about.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Nidhi. I'm just going to read out something really brief from the introduction. This is not a book on parenting. If there is one thing I have learned over the years, it's that very few people welcome advice. So instead, I decided to write about the experiences of teens and the world that they inhabit, because often we forget to listen to the voice of our children. Never have 2 words changed a society, especially one like ours that resists change so intensely as much as social media. For young people and many of their parents, their existence begins and ends with social media. From sexting to hacking, the playground has morphed into a battlefield. As a former student told me, everything that is happening in schools is a gateway to something bigger. She was not referring to the UPSC or the Ivy League. Instead, she was alluding to the natural progression from hash to cocaine for a drug addict and how peer pressure can lead to addiction. Anonymity bestowed by social media is a gift that keeps on giving and leads to slut shaming and blackmail, among many other dangers. It is this unfathomably desperate compulsion of a Red Bull generation that made me dig deeper. There are many layers on this surface, and the mirror, hopefully, does not lie. But for today's teens, this is the only way forward, and not all of it is bad. It allows the quiet ones to come out of their cocoons and connect with kindred souls, something they find tough to navigate in the offline world. It gives the victim a platform to speak up. It allows activism at a younger age than was possible earlier. Most of what drives our children today is connected to cyberspace, and how our kids harness it. It is our responsibility. Nidhi?
Well, I mean, that really does kind of give us an overview of what your book is about. And I'm going to call you Joe because that's how I know you. So I'm not going to call you Jyotsna any longer. But Joe, just tell us. I mean, when you look at everything that you've covered in this book, and particularly the way technology rules the lives of kids today, you have to wonder, how did our parents raise us without this technology?
I think they were much better off. They were much better off dealing with us. I think what is going on right now is very scary for parents, especially for those who I feel are not on the ball. So I think there are some parents who know what's going on, and yet they're struggling. And I think that's a message out there for people. If you're not really involved with what your children are doing right now, it's a minefield out there. And I really envy my parents. All our parents actually. I used to say that, oh my God, how did they bring us up without Google? But I think when you balance it out, the cons right now are much bigger, and I think the dangers, and I think we have to also up our game as parents. I think that's something I've learned myself. I keep saying that our children are so much better when it comes to technology than us. Even if they're not on social media, they're all born to be tech kids. But I think I don't think that's enough anymore. I think we've all got to just learn how to go along, learn to be a step ahead of what they're dealing with.
So before I get into the specific issues that you raised in the book, what I did want to ask was why you decided to write on this particular subject and then not give advice to parents on what they should do. You said in the passage that you read as well that I'm not here to give parenting advice, though you are a parent. But what you've done basically is document some of the horrors that take place in the lives of India's urban teens. And also the other question is that this is a book, though, uh, that in a sense covers the lives of a very privileged group of kids in our country. There is a whole other part of India, and those kids that it doesn't cover.
Right. So to begin with, I think there were two reasons, Nidhi. Firstly, all these, I've been over the years, the last few years, I've realized that there's a lot of headlines around children, whether it was the PUBG related issues or the blue whale deaths, or, even the decade-old peer pressure and kids committing suicide after the results. And then yet I realized that, we're not having too many conversations. It's like, it's something that comes in, we give it like some token respect of a headline for like 2 days. Just for instance, like the boys' locker room. So much furore, 2 days, 3 days, and yet it's completely out of the picture now. And that doesn't mean the issue's gone away. So, that was one thing that really bothered me, the Snapchat incidents, bullying, everything is out in the open. And yet we're not digging in deeper, we're not questioning it any further. And I think simultaneously, I've been really fascinated with the fact that, I've been seeing kids as young as 5, 6 who've been given gadgets by their families, an iPad, an iPhone. And I've been wondering and questioning, where is it that it's taking them? Where is it that it's taking, where do the parents think that it's taking them? And it's to me, it was a little bit like, the parents are being played and they've not realized that they're being played. And so imagine where that leaves the child. The child is then becoming these headlines that we've come across, all these Snapchat bullying incidents and everything. So I think that is why I just dug in deeper to try and bring out these issues, because we tend to usually as a society have adult conversations, and I think the issues, just because they're children doesn't mean their issues are not big enough. And I think I just wanted to for once bring out their issues, because in this whole social media bubble, as with the products, as Social Dilemma calls it, I think it's very imperative for us to realize what is going on. And I'm hoping that this book just, it's like I said, yes, absolutely, it's not a parenting book, because parenting is very personal. We all don't. I've seen that, I mean, I've tried that a couple of times, even with something as, different as pollution. I remember Delhi pollution, and I'm talking to some people I know really well, and I'm like, listen, and I'm coming back from school, all masks and everything, and people are walking in the morning, and I'm like, listen, it's 6, it's foggy, this is like 700 on the meter. Why are you walking? And they would be like, listen, it's fine, we're all good, don't worry. So I realized, nobody wants advice, everybody will do what they have to do. So my attempt is just to show you the picture. What you do with it, I think I'll leave it to you. I'm just hoping that everybody takes an informed choice, going forward.
So let's look at each chapter, because I thought it was great the way that you actually divided this into 6 different chapters, which focused on related issues, and some of them overlap with the next chapter as well. Now, the first one actually begins with the need for social media validation, and you begin that chapter with a very disturbing account of a girl who's just 14 years old, and she's bought this very bold lingerie to take a picture of herself to put on Instagram or one of these social media sites. Now, take us through that what you discovered while talking to these kids as young as 12, 13, and 14, who just seek social media validation all the time and at any cost.
So everyone, I mean, if they're on social media, they're there for the likes, they're there for putting their picture up, they're there for putting their selfies up, and it has to be flattering. If it's not, then it takes them to it takes them into a different funk, it takes them sometimes to the edge, and that's another thing that we'll talk about. But everybody out there, children, girls, especially, this is more, I think, for girls, because I think the boys are seeking a popularity through a different means, and it's more through gaming, which we'll come to as well. But I think for girls, every validation, it's their way of getting instant gratification. It's their way of being something that they may not be in the offline world. So like I said, that anonymity is a gift that keeps on giving. They can be anybody in cyberspace that they choose to be. They can be the popular girl that they're not really in class. And the peer pressure is so enormous that they need to conform. They need to be what everybody else is, even at the expense of, going against parents. So that's the big dilemma as well right now, whether they go with, what they've been traditionally taught in our homes, or whether they go with their children or with their peers. And at this point, I think they're taking the hard choice of going with their peers, because it is so important for them to be somebody in cyberspace, so important that they can't be seen missing out. And I think that that's really tricky, because for a parent now, how do we balance them? You need to give it to them, and yet you can't have them being in it all the time. But with children all around, it's the way they either conform to it or they're nobody.
They're constantly looking at their phone to check, how many more
all,
people have liked the photograph.
So many
That's all that
teachers
matters.
told me, yeah, so many teachers told me, Nidhi, that these children, they don't sleep at night, so they're constantly on social media, they're constantly putting up pictures, and then they come to school and they're sleep deprived. So when they come to school, they're not focusing, and then it becomes like a cycle, because they need to keep awake, which is when they go into substance abuse. So it becomes like this horrible cycle of social media, sleep deprivation, substance abuse, and then it becomes like it keeps going on and on, because it's the only thing that matters to them right now. It is just the only thing that matters.
So you've written about this in the chapter as well, which is what you alluded to, the challenges that parents face in terms of how to balance all this out. When do you decide is the right age to give your child a cell phone, or to get your child onto Facebook, or get them an Instagram account? Now, there is peer pressure, as you said. And what did you come across then when you spoke to parents and teachers about that? Because it must be tough if you're 13, 14 and every other kid in your class has a cell phone and you don't. So how does a parent deal with that dilemma?
So, I see that at home as well, but, we've got this constant conversation going on. So, and we keep trying to push it, we do keep trying to have conversations around it. And I keep giving the example of this person that I've quoted in my book, this mother who has 3 sons, and, the eldest one is 15, and she still hasn't given him a phone, and she's a minority. And I said that to her, 15, give it. She said, I'm just about to give it. But she said, not one person came up to me and said, oh my God, why haven't you done it? Everybody who came up to me said, how did you manage it? And I think that's the thing. I think it's really hard to be that mother. But if you do it, I think it will help our children in the long run, because to me, the longer that you push this gadget, they're going to have challenges any which way. Even when they're 15, 16, there are going to be challenges in cyberspace. But I think a kid at 10 versus a kid at 16, the way they handle it will be so much different. Even a difference, I think, of 6 months is going to make all the difference. So I think the answer basically is to keep pushing as long as you can. And if you can't, a lot of parents can't. I feel like, why do you have to give them a Safari? Just give them a phone? You want to keep in touch? Of course, keep in touch. But I think, why should we give them anything that they don't need? Why? There's no need for it. Although I think COVID has, just exaggerated and taken everything out, all the equations out right now. And I think it's even pushed me back a few steps. But I think, it's very tricky.
A smartphone. It doesn't have to be a smartphone. It can just be a.
I think, and I've seen a lot of people, I met a guy, he works in a tech company in California, and he was outside the gymnastics class, and he showed me like this old Nokia phone, and he said, this is what I have. It's got nothing, and this is what my children will get. And it was the cheapest phone. And that's what, yeah, I love it. So I keep telling my children, have you seen the Nokia? And they're like, but I see a little bit of a reverse trend though. I do.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, interestingly, you also talked about in the book about not just kids who are obsessed with putting their pictures online, but parents who are obsessed with putting pictures of their kids online. And now that's again a little scary, because you've delved into that, how then that opens up also the potential for misuse when you do put your kids' pictures up, even if it's on what you think is a private social media account. You don't know who has the potential to misuse that. So tell us a bit about that, because you have talked to some parents here who are like, well, I want to put different stages of growth of my daughter or whoever on social media. That's another very tricky area.
It's very tricky. It's called sharenting, and it's about parents who are sharing everything about their children's life, starting from their first day to school, to everything. It's not. And I've spoken to so many children who have been so upset about it, because I think the children are, in a sense, I mean, it's ironical. They say they're guarding their privacy, but I think they're only guarding their privacy from their parents. The parents are not. The parents, though, so privacy is the big thing. I think parents, a lot of parents are very open about the privacy. They dismiss it, saying that, this is how things are now. What can we do? We've got to live with it. But I think that's underrated for us to think that these things only happen in the West, because they're happening here. If you speak to cyber experts, they will tell you, please, privacy is the one big thing that you must keep in mind. These issues like grooming are happening, predators are happening, it's all happening. But we don't really think that it happens to us, but it is. In fact, the other day, some kids I know personally, and they're about 9-10 years of age, and they were on TikTok, even though they were private accounts, and this is just barely, not even a week ago. And now they've shut it down because there was a suicide that was live streamed on a private account on TikTok. So there are so many ways to go around it, and this is just barely a few days ago. And so I think privacy is the one big thing I think parents have to really look into, because the children are doing exactly what they see their parents doing. If we're sitting on the dining table, and I'm guilty as well, sitting in the dining table with my iPad while I'm having my dinner, they will see that this is what the parents do. If they feel that, this is what we have to do, and if they feel that it's not just the kids who are getting that validation, even we parents are getting our validation. We are also so obsessed with the selfies we're putting up. We're so obsessed with the likes we're getting. We're at par with what the children are doing right now. And the problem is that they're just going to emulate us further.
In fact, I've known you for years, and I've noticed that one of the things that you consciously make an effort to do is not to put pictures of your kids online. And I've seen that. I think I may have seen one odd picture in the last so many years that I have known you. So perhaps there is a lesson there for parents. Before I ask you more questions, just to remind everybody, as I put on my middle-aged glasses, that this is the book. It's been published by HarperCollins. It will be available at the Crossword bookstores, online and in store, so preferably online. Do try to get that there because it's COVID. And there are lots of comments and congratulations, by the way, Jyotsna, coming in for you at this time. Lots of people congratulating you, saying that this is a very relevant topic. Chitwan Sidhu has said it's very relevant. A lady called Nidhi Razdan has said, congratulations, my dear. Someone called Manika Raikwar has said you're the best. And Raka Razdan has also wished you best wishes. She's very proud of you. There are some for me, so hello to all the people. Payal Kutari, please say hi to your daughter. Manu Saklani has wished you all the best as well. So I think there's a lot of interest, a lot of chatter that your book is generating, which is really great. Now let's talk about and another issue that again comes in towards the end of the first chapter, and that's again something that blew me away. Kids as young as 13, 14, 15 doing plastic surgery, getting like lip enhancers, even breast implants. Now, what world is this? I mean, in what world is this? Is it okay for a 13 or 14-year-old to be doing that kind of stuff? And parents are okay with this?
Yeah, this is again the influence of social media. So I like Nidhi, somebody wrote to me immediately after the book came, and it was one of those predictable reactions that I actually expected. And this gentleman said, "Oh, this is complete Western rubbish and Western nonsense." And I reacted to him, and I said, I replied back. I said, the thing is that this is a predictable reaction, and I do expect it. But every child in this country who has that smartphone, even in semi-rural, semi-urban India, is that Western that you're denigrating. We're all the same now. We're streaming live at the same time that was happening. We can't say it's happening in the West. It'll happen 2 years later, 5 years. Everything is simultaneously. All the people that these kids are following, these Kardashian sisters and the Hadid sisters, it's all the same culture for the tweens and the teens now. And I think this is what they're emulating. They go and they take these pictures and they say, this is what we want. This is everything is... Parents are giving into that, and that's the remarkable thing, because where are they getting the money from? They're getting it from at home. I know that when we're talking about substance abuse, there's a lot of other stuff going on as to how kids are getting their money, like by betting in the IPL matches or hacking accounts, selling and earning the money. But when it comes to going to these doctors and getting these plastic surgeries, and they're getting it, and the parents say that we give in once, we say no, but we give in. Like I say, it's harder not to give in. we are setting ourselves up for the fall, whether it is giving into the plastic surgery or giving into that gadget. Reversing those decisions later on, as I spoke to so many parents, is becoming difficult, because then when you want to reverse that decision when the child is 15, 16, you're hitting a wall, because then the child is there are a lot of children who are becoming aggressive because now they're not letting you take away what you gave it to them so early and so easily.
But so are you getting a sense that I mean, you're a parent, I'm not, so it's I can't
Yeah.
judge. But is it just that much harder to be a parent today, and therefore a lot of parents find it easier to give in and say, here, take the damn iPad, or you want a new, if you want a boob job, can I say that here? I think I can. If you want that, just go get it. I mean, is
Yeah.
that what's happening? Because it's I just can't imagine that parents would be okay with their kids going under the knife at 13, right? But like you said, maybe they're just throwing up their hands and saying, I'll do
But
this because I don't have time.
Yeah,
What
I
do you
think
think?
it's two things. I think it's two things. I think it gives them a breather. You get the child off your back. It's like in a sense, it's like when your kids come and say, can I play on the iPad? Can I go onto YouTube? And you're tired and you say, okay, just take it for 15 minutes and you get that breather. I think in a sense it's that. But I think also yeah, I think we're just letting them take it too easily from us. We're not sitting in to have conversations, and there are people who are genuinely sitting down and having conversations with their children, and they are struggling. I mean, I know this lady, and she's got a son who's a topper. My book is fallen, but don't forget to buy it. It's still here. It's in the bookstores. And so she was so her son is a topper. And even then, after being a topper, he struggled between he had she's just trying to figure out, whether it was depression first or it was drugs first, or what came, what now. And this, despite her being hands on there, not giving in. So imagine the kind of peer pressure that is coming from outside when you're still with the child, when you're having these conversations, versus those who are just letting your children, giving that freedom to do what you want in this environment. I think it's very, very tricky to let go so easily.
More congratulations are coming in for you from Kiran Jyoti, who's wished you the best of luck. Tinky Bhardwaj says that what you're talking about is so relevant today. Rupali Nas has congratulated you. Megha Purohit saying keep on doing the good work. Ishneet Maan has said very well done, Joe. The book is an eye opener and is very well researched. I'm coming to the second chapter now, and this is one that perhaps has been one among the more controversial ones or more disturbing ones, shall we say, and that's about substance abuse. Take us through that, and what you've pointed out in that chapter is that it's not just kids who have trouble at home or personal issues as such who are taking drugs for recreation, that or have become addicted. These are a lot of these kids are actually from very good families and don't have any issues per se. So what's happening here?
So I honestly didn't. I think for a majority of these children, it is not recreational at all. I think for a majority of these children, it is the pure pressure to conform, to belong, any which way that they can. Belonging is so important for this generation. So anything that allows them to belong, to be part of a circle, is where they're getting involved. So like you just said, yeah, it's not just the backbenchers, it's everybody. So the topper will have it so that he can be part of the cool gang. The backbencher will have it so that it keeps him awake at night and he can study and get that 100%, and be at par with the people who are coming first. And it's unbelievable, the age. I think a lot of people ask me, what is the thing that stood out for you when the one thing that stood out for you when you wrote this book? And I say that when I started writing it, I thought I was dealing with children who are the issues of 16, 17, 18, 19, going into early 20s. But what I ended up was middle school. A playground is middle school now, and it's 10, 11, 12. I mean, 12, 13-year-olds who are saying they're having marijuana. And, initially I had it, but now, I have it when I go to the movies as an experience enhancer. And my question is, why would just the movie not be enough for you? Why do you need to have something in you to feel it? And they say, their answer is that, if under normal circumstances, we wouldn't be doing this. But, obviously, for all of us who do this, there's a void. We're trying to fill in this void. And Nidhi, I questioned every single child that I spoke with, and I said, what is your angst? What is this void that makes you go into drugs? What is it that you think you can't get up without having a joint in the morning, or it doesn't keep you cool, or it doesn't. They said, this is how we are. We are not having conversations at home. People are not listening to us. We are not what your generation was. And I think that is something we have to really relook, in the fact that, as traditionally I say that as a society, as families, we've always spoken to children, but I think we need to speak with children, because children who are waking up and 11, 12, they're all on drugs, or they bet on matches, and then whatever money they get, they put it into a drug kitty, and go and buy some more. Or they're hacking accounts, so they're hacking Instagram accounts, and then they sell it to the highest bidder. They get the money, and it goes into the drug kitty again. And these kids are not just backbenchers or front benchers. These are normal kids as well. So this is the new age peddlers. They're children who are selling it to their friends for money. So you can get it in the school bus, you can get it in the school campus, you can get it anywhere you want to, because these are friends who are selling it. I mean, initially I think they were like, we tried, somebody would come and say, oh, can you give us a little bit, can you give? And then they realized that these kids are telling me this, they said, we realized that some of these kids don't know how to approach a peddler, so we decided to become one ourselves. And they are earning this money, they get this extra money. And otherwise, the other way is that, they just go to their siblings and the sibling's friend or their friend's sibling, that it's as close as that. And, they say, we trust. That trust is so big in this generation that, we trust them, that they will give us good quality. It's not about what they're giving, it's the quality. So look at the choices they're making. And I wonder, do they really have a choice?
And what you've also talked about when gone into this whole issue of substance abuse is the fact that most parents are still in denial about it. Yeah. That they're not willing to. I mean, parents that you spoke to in the course of researching this book would just turn around and say, "Well, not my child," And so, is there still a lot of denial that this is taking place in your kid's school, in your own backyard?
Enormous. I tried this in the beginning. I would go to like parents' friends, and whose kids were, in senior school, and I would be like, do does your child talk about vaping? They would be like, no, what is vaping? Our child doesn't know. I said, no, speak, ask your child. Vaping is really, so vaping is what Boston Globe said, the epidemic no one saw coming. It's what Time magazine has put on its cover, at the e-cigarette epidemic, which is as big as in India as it is in the US. Even though it's been banned, kids have told me during COVID they've had full supply of it. So they know the ways of getting around it. And every single parent I spoke with said, oh no, our kids don't vape, our kids don't vape. And I go to school teachers and principals, and I'm sitting with a school principal, and she's literally pointed to a cupboard like this behind me, and she said, this cupboard is full of confiscated vape. It is full. She said, I have gotten tired of calling parents into school and saying, I've confiscated it from your child. And the parents said, no, it can't be our child. She said, I've confiscated it from your child. It cannot be our child. She said, ultimately, it's my last attempt. I'm now going to call, I was doing it in batches. Now I'm going to call two parents, speak to them eye to eye. If they accept it, great. If they don't, and your kids are going around it. So I think even for teachers, it's a learning process, because some teachers went up to a principal and said, we're wondering why there's so many geometry boxes suddenly in classes, and why are all these students carrying pen drives, and those pen drives are actually e-cigarettes, right? Things are evolving so fast that if we don't keep up with it, we're not going to learn. So schools are struggling as well, but I think they're hitting the wall of denial with parents for sure.
So more comments again, coming here. In fact, Simran Lakhanpal has put on Facebook that this issue of denial is a huge one. Manar Gill also agreeing that all of this is happening. It is really happening. Sonali Amla has said it's a fabulous book. Highly recommend that all parents should buy it. Neerja Chandra Mohan saying that it's an amazingly well researched book. And more comments, continue to come your way. Sorry, even with my glasses, I can't see her. But there's Preeti, who's written in and talked about her experience when she went some years ago to look at. She'd gone to the cinema and saw children going to the theater in school clothes, but basically that they lied to their parents and didn't even bother to change their dress. They just went to the cinema. She's saying parents need to share the guilt for this as well about what kids are doing. I mean, that's what your book really has reflected. I mean, it is down to parenting also. Then we come to the issue of bullying, which you've dealt with in chapter 3, and you talked about sort of the traditional bullying, the ragging that, and you've actually brought out an incident which was very widely reported in the national press, and then the whole challenge of cyberbullying. Now, how does that work exactly? What is cyberbullying? If you were to explain to a layperson, what happens?
So cyberbullying is basically, like I've also mentioned, Nidhi, that everything is like a digital hookup. Everything is everything that's going on in cyberspace is so alien from the offline lives, and this is exactly what is going on. So if we were say physical bullying, now we a lot of children not resorting to it. Cyberbullying is something which is, I find it to be even worse for the simple reason it's 24/7. So it doesn't it doesn't stop. So earlier, you get bullied in school, you come home, it's finished. Here it's like that T20 that keeps going on and on and on. You finish to log in, you're still getting bullied, and you're bullied from one, say, whether it's Instagram. So Instagram and Snapchat are the big ones for these children, and everything is basically done through that. Facebook is for their parents, Twitter they're not really interested. And I think so everything that they do, it's to put somebody down. Even, and I find that even friendships are very transient. There are no real friendships. And I was speaking to somebody the other day. She was just in her early 20s, and she said at the end of the day, I can barely count 2 people as my friends. It's like that. And I've mentioned this. I've mentioned about this cyberbullying. I've mentioned an incident where this girl, she started seeing another boy, and the girl's best friend just felt like she was being kept out of everything, and she felt left out, and no attention. So she went and recorded them getting intimate, and then just leaked it. It's really that casual for them. Just to get bullied, everybody's hacking into everybody's accounts to leak the nudes. I don't understand why it's it's so prevalent, but kids think, they say that celebrities get theirs leaked as well. So what's the big deal if ours is? It's just that we trust, and somebody's broken our trust. And it's ironical because here you're trusting the whole world, you're trusting strangers in cyber world, and yet you're bottling up all that angst inside of you. You're not talking. It's a big dilemma for this generation. But cyberbullying has really pushed things bad for them. They really don't know where they're getting attacked from. This girl who went for a party without telling her parents, and so many people do this. I mean, it's what teens do, right? You land up at a party without really telling your parents. But she was.
Is watching. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Huh, chalo.
Yes, you're always a good girl. I always told you that anyway. But so the thing is, so she went there, and somebody then took her video and posted it and unflattering. And she told the host, "Can you please take the pictures down? I haven't taken permission from my mother. I don't want her to know." And the girl didn't, and they made it even more unflattering. And then the girl just goes and cuts her wrists, and or stops going to school. That's what they're doing. The angst is so big. There's such fragile egos right now that even though they know that it's going to lead to this, they're going ahead with exposing themselves. There's intimate pictures. Everything is so intense for 3 days, and then you break up in 3 days, and then it's what's called revenge porn. Then the pictures are all over, and then then they're going cutting their wrists. And so it's a very hard playing field out there. And this sensitivity. And I think if we don't have these conversations, if we don't, I think the biggest thing for us right now is to have conversations at home, and to yeah, we have to normalize the fact that these things happen in a way that we take the mystery away from it, so that when these things happen, our children are not running or attracted towards it. And I say that to give an example, like my own child, I mean, when some vaping incident happened and she heard about it, and she said, Mama, these kids were in class 5, and I know about it, and I know who these children are. And but that was it. She didn't furiously go typing or looking for vaping, because we've taken the whole mystery out of it. We have conversations at home, we're open about it, and she knows what these things are, and she knows not to go around them. I mean, I'm sure there'll be challenges going forward, but I think the trick is to keep having these conversations and to say, yes, substance abuse happens in our society. Yes, the issues like these go on, and we can't keep brushing it under the carpet. I think it's high time we confront them.
There's some interesting comments and questions. Chandar Mohan has said the book is an eye opener. Gargi Rawat, our former colleague at NDTV, saying she's just started reading the book and it's an eye opener with a absolutely terrified emoji. Gargi has 3 kids, so
3 boys at that too. I know. I remember, Gargi, your incidents.
yeah. And Niharika Mohan, well done, Joe. It's an eye opener for all of us. Each page I read was revealing and shocking. There's a question from Shreyash Dubey saying that I'm 15 years old, so am I advised to go through the book once?
Absolutely.
Should.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. A lot of kids, 15, 16, 17, they've actually read it already, and they've written to me personally, and very sweet messages, Nidhi, of how we're really happy that you've written to us, written about us, and, in a way to us, because no one really talks about us. And, I did this Insta Live the other day, and a lot of the people who were on that chat were younger people, late teens, early 20s, and all of them had this question as to, can you tell us how to speak with our parents, how to bring up these issues with our parents? And I think that's what they're dealing with. And I think if Shreyash, you can read it, and maybe you can let your parents read it as well. And I think sit down and talk about it. I think we all are looking for a middle ground. It's a challenging time for parents as well. So I think I'm happy that I've been able to bring out their side of the story as well, because I think somebody needs to speak about them as well. I don't say that they're always right, but they're not always wrong either as children.
In fact, Chandana Roy has put in a comment saying that raising teens in today's world of social media is a huge challenge. Aditya Chopra saying it's a really relevant book. Sonali Amla has said that all kids, in fact, should read this. My 13-year-old daughter is also reading this book at the moment. So I think that is important that kids.
I think we underestimate our kids, Nidhi. I mean, the 9-year-old is now the 15-year-old of our times. They know so much more than we give them credit for. So it's better to
talks like a 25-year-old. So
that's what I mean. I know. So that's what I mean. We don't underestimate them. Talk to them. You'll be surprised they actually know. If you think you're going to sit and talk about birds and bees, we actually be surprised they actually know about it.
That also comes to the next part of the book, which talks about how kids are having sex. I mean, this was a shocker. Kids, in their teens, they're young teenagers, and now there is also this pressure to have sex in schools. Are schools able to deal with this and have an honest conversation with kids about it? Are parents doing enough to have honest conversations about this?
I think a lot of schools that I spoke with, schools generally say that, yeah, we've upped the game, and, we've started all the sex education talk and everything. But I'd say that every single child that I spoke with said that it is not enough. It is just token word that that happens in most schools. To give you an example, I was speaking to a counselor, an expert, and a TEDx speaker, and she was called by 3 schools in Mumbai to speak, and she said, okay, I'm going to come, and I want to talk about sexual rights of children, and it's an important issue. And the first school immediately told her, no, thank you. The second school, told her that, okay, we'll get back to you. And sure enough, 2 days later, said no. And the third school was still hanging on, but she knew a child there, and he told her, he said, it's not going to happen. And sure enough, the morning of that talk, they canceled it. So this is where we are. We're still not talking about it. I think schools also need to change our traditional thinking, our traditional teaching. It's not it can't just be that a child now comes to class and you teach them by the textbook. I think the schools also need to embrace a whole lot more. They need to, we have to be more inclusive. It has to be, you have to be more inclusive of everything that's going on around and go beyond the textbooks. And I think it's really hard because the pressure these children are, again it boils down to the same thing, that you have to be the popular child. So if you have not hooked up with a child by the time with somebody by the time you're 16, 17, you're not cool enough. Just look at how it's changed. Look at what I mean from our time. It's really, it's this. So you're not cool enough. And so a lot of girls then say that we just do this, we get on with this, and just to get it out of the way, that we're part of the gang. It's so casual, there is nothing involved. And then again, I think they struggle with talking at home because they hit the wall. A lot of educated families as well, they don't like talking about it. We're a society that doesn't like talking about it. But I think unfortunately we're at crossroads right now. And I think for once, I think we have to let go of our traditional thinking. And because a lot of things come out from this, that whole society, that objectifying women, the patriarchy. I think these are issues that all need to, we need to bring out. We need to speak in totality with our children, girls and boys right now, because they if they're not learning things from home, then they're
And in fact,
confused.
you've gotten into that in a very good way, where you've talked about the use of violent language, the sort of misogyny, what we're teaching our boys, and how that sort of rape culture begins in the way we parent kids from a very young age. And you see that boys locker room conversation, for example, which even had girls part as part of it, but who didn't see anything amiss in the kind of language and what they were threatening to do. More comments coming away. Cookie Dosanjh has said that this is a perfect book for teenagers. I'm reading this book with my 16-year-old grandson, so that's really great. Sumant has written and said, I'm beyond dazed and disoriented. I'll sort myself out and I have to read this book regardless. Manika Raikwar has said the strength of the book is how contextually it explains that kids and parents need to speak to each other about everything. We have to figure out a way of balancing parenting with opening up to one another. Kids need to know that they have parents who will understand, and parents have to understand that nothing will go away simply because you don't talk about it, which is exactly what you've gone on to explain. We just have just a couple of minutes left, Jyotsna, and I do want to ask you about two more important things that you have written about. One is body shaming, eating disorders. Again, based on the interviews you've done, you've come across a lot of cases of, I think, young women in particular who have these issues, and the addiction to gaming. Which is an entire chapter that you dealt with right at the end. Let's talk about both these issues. The eating disorders first. Again, I'm sure all of that linked to social media.
Yeah. So, I think the eating disorders thing really broke my heart every single time, Nidhi. The incidents they were really gutting. Kids who are losing 30 kgs of weight just because somebody said something about their body structure. Again, I think it is to conform. B, again, it's our society set standards of the slim is in. So if you're a little bit on the heavier side, the kids are feeling it in cyberspace. And so it's led to so many of them. I mean, this incident of a girl who lost so much weight, and then she needed to be hospitalized, and they couldn't really put a needle in. Kids who lost 30 kgs and went to the doctor, who said if the if she'd continued with, so bulimia, you can't really tell because they'll gorge and they'll keep taking it out at night. And if this kid had continued like this, it would have she would have gone in 4 months. Some issues are that serious, and I think the repercussions then are mental health, depression. We don't talk enough about it. We know that, right? I mean, in the last few months, this whole thing of we've skirted the issues and not gone around it. And now I think a little bit of talk has started in the last few weeks or something. But again, it's not reaching our children because we think that children are young, unko kya problem hai? But they are going through panic attacks. They are going through anxiety. They are going through serious issues. I mean, there's a girl like I spoke about, who overdosed with the intent of killing herself, only because for the first time from 100% she got 97%. And what compounded her issue was also that she didn't get the seat in the student council. everything is so heavy for them right now, and I think so is conforming physically. And I think we really need to relook how society has, built up these expectations of how a child, how parents are. And I think we need to look at it ourselves, because a lot of experts say that, children, they look at you and you say, oh, I'm not getting into my size 0, or where are my slim jeans, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And I think so that I think is the big debate on mental health and children. I think is we're long overdue for that, Nidhi, and I think we're running out of time. So I quickly want to speak about gaming. It's the chapter that I wrote last, thinking that it's going to be a bit lame, and it's the least interesting of the chapters. But I think once we finished it, between my editor Swati Chopra and myself, I think we were shocked at what we found with gaming. Gaming is the next big challenge that's coming up for us. So many kids addicted, so many kids on, not knowing the safety hazards are getting into it. Kids who've got, physical issues, they're gaming 10 hours, eye problems, neck problems, physical manifestations. There are strangers on gaming, pop-ups. So nobody really knew. I mean, so many people whose kids are gaming have no idea that there are chat pop-ups that come up. And if you're playing a multiplayer game with 100 people, 40 of those people are really not who you think they are. They're actually people much older than you. They come in, they build your trust, and then they groom you. And then they take this conversation outside to WhatsApp. And then this is where the predator thing comes in. This is where they get you. And this is where, things come out openly, and, they end up blackmailing you. So it's huge. I mean, I know PUBG's been banned, but it's been banned for different reasons. And Fortnite and Roblox, every game that you're talking about, it has its hazards. And I think we can't say that we have to take it all away. That's not the answer. It's never the answer. But I think we have to monitor what our children are doing. I think we have to, a lot of time the mics are left open, so strangers are listening into the conversations. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't say don't let your children game. I mean, I let my children game a bit, but I think everything in balance, everything with us being aware, and so that we can help our children make better choices going forward. I think it's very important for us to be equipped enough to handle all this.
I think these are really eye-opening issues that you've dealt with, Jyotsna, in the course of this book. I mean, for instance, on gaming, I wasn't aware that there were so many dangers and risks that came with it. So like you said, no one's saying don't do it, but you have to be really, really on the ball as a parent. And hats off to all parents out there. It's not easy being a parent at this time. I can at least go back and say we were model kids to our parents. So we've been a similar time now. But this is, once again, this is the book Stoned, Shamed and Depressed. It's already a bestseller. If you haven't got your copy yet, it's there at all of Crosswords bookstores as well as their online store. Please do order it. If you are a parent in particular, I think you're going to find this extremely useful just to understand what could be going on in the lives of your kids so that you can make an informed choice about how you want to deal with these issues. Jyotsna, congrats again. And thanks so much for being part of this conversation.
Thank you for doing this with me, Nidhi. Thanks.